Hi there, and welcome to this video on answering some of the objections about heaven. Now, don't forget, if you like this video and like what I'm sharing, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and let me know what you think in the comments down below. Now, let's look at the objections for heaven. There are around let's say about 17 objections that I figured out. Now my intent is not to provide a theology of heaven, nor is it to provide a picture of heaven intended for inspiration or personal edification. Much more remains to be said after the objections have been answered. But here are a couple of objections, and we're going to go through some of the answers together. So if you are an avid apologist, this is something for you. Now, objection number 1. Reincarnation is more reasonable than heaven. Well, Christians reject reincarnation for 8 reasons. Number 1, it is contradicted in Scripture, like Hebrews 9:27 says that it is appointed unto men once to die, then the judgment. Number 2, it is contradicted by Orthodox tradition in all churches. Number 3, it implies that God made a mistake in designing our souls to live in bodies, that we are really pure souls in prison or angels in costume. It doesn't make sense. Number 4, it is contradicted by psychology and common sense, for its view of souls as imprisoned in alien bodies denies the natural psychosomatic unity. And number 5, it entails a very low view of the body as a prison, basically a punishment. And another 6, the idea that we are reincarnated in order to learn lessons we failed to learn in a past life is contrary to both common sense and basic educational psychology. I cannot learn something if there is no continuity of memory. I can learn from my mistakes only if I remember them. People do not usually remember these past reincarnations, so reincarnation totally bogus. Number 7, the 7th one, answer to this, is the supposed evidence for reincarnation. Rememberings from past lives that come out under hypnosis or past life regression can be explained if they truly occur at all as mental telepathy or from other living beings, from the souls of dead humans in purgatory or hell, so to speak, or from demons. The real possibility of the latter should make us extremely skittish about opening our souls to past life regressions. It just doesn't make sense. Plus, I don't believe in a literal place called hell anyway. It's not scripture. And another argument against reincarnation is that reincarnation cannot account for itself. Why are our souls imprisoned in bodies? Is it just a punishment for evils we committed in past reincarnations? But why were those past reincarnations necessary? For the same reason, but the beginning of the process that justly imprisoned our souls in bodies in the first place must have antedated the series of bodies. How could we have committed evil in the state of perfect, pure, heavenly spirituality? It doesn't make sense. Further, if we sinned in that paradise, it is not paradisical anyway. Yet that is the state that reincarnation is supposed to lead us back to after all of our embodied yearnings are over. Reincarnation doesn't make sense. Now, in a second objection, there is no scientific evidence for heaven. What would be some replies to this? Well, number 1, nor for many other ideas that everyone admits are valid, even the scientist. When the scientist closes his laboratory, he closes it down and goes home and kisses his wife, he does not believe there's nothing there but hormones, neurons, and molecules. Another reply to the fact that there's no evidence for heaven would be this. Well, there's no scientific evidence for the notion that nothing exists except what is proved by scientific evidence. The objector assumes that whatever there is no scientific evidence for does not exist. So there is no scientific evidence for heaven, therefore heaven does not exist. That's the thinking. But there is no scientific evidence for that assumption. It cannot be proved by the scientific method. It is simply an assumption. In fact, it is an arbitrary decision of the will to narrow the bounds of reality to the bounds of scientific method. A third objection to heaven is that heaven is obviously just wishful thinking. If there were no heaven, we would have to invent it. It is a necessary dream, they say. What would be your reply to this as a Christian? Well, my reply, there's actually 2 replies I have. First one, the heaven of the Bible does not correspond to our dreams or wishful thinking. It is selfless, self-forgetful love, and saintliness, not the gratification of selfish desires. A second reply I would have to this objection would be, even if there is a correspondence between our innate wishes and the idea of heaven, that correspondence could be explained equally well by God's having designed us for heaven, rather than by our having designed heaven for ourselves. The glove could have been made for the hand, or the hand could have been made for the glove. So those are three major objections we've covered already. I don't know if you're ready for a fourth or if I bored you already, but let's take a look at a fourth objection. I've got like 17, but I don't think I'll go through them all. It might be too long. So here's the fourth objection. The very form or structure of the idea of heaven is mythic or legendary. The golden streets are just another version of the happy hunting grounds or the Elysian fields. And so in this objection, as a Christian, how do we answer it? Well, I've got two replies. The first one is distinguish the imagery from the substance. To disbelieve in the substance because you mistook the imagery for literal description is as foolish as disbelieving in the moon because you mistook the man in the moon for a literal man. A second reply to that objection would be the fact that all religions and cultures have some version of heaven or paradise. And this is evidence for, not against, its reality. If everyone or nearly everyone believes a story, only snobbery would conclude from that fact alone that the story is likely to be a false one rather than true. Okay, maybe I'll do a fifth objection. Let's say, this is actually a common one, and this is why I kind of want to touch it before closing this video. The fifth objection is believing in heaven is escapist. Now, I've got three replies for this one. The first reply is that the most pointed answer to the charge of escapism is C.S. Lewis's simple question. Who talks the most against escapism? Jailers. Just think about it now. Jailers. Second reply to the objection. It is escapist for an unborn baby to wonder about life after birth. Is it escapist? That's the question, okay? Is it escapist for an unborn baby to wonder about life after birth? Is it escapist for a pilgrim to wonder about his holy destination? Is it escapist for the shipwrecked sailor on a raft to dream of landfall? Is it escapist for the seed to dream of the flower? The caterpillar of the butterfly? The Juliet of the Romeo? Heaven is not escapist because it is the fulfillment of all good earthly desires. Now my third reply to this objection that heaven is escapist is heaven is not escapist because it's real. The idea is escapist only if it is a lie. To call the idea of heaven escapist is to presuppose atheism, but not to have the clarity or courage to say so. If heaven is real, it is escapist not to think about it. It is realistic to do so. And so I believe for the atheist, agnostic, and so on, they are trying to escape heaven. And I believe that if an atheist or an agnostic or a devout sinner were to go to heaven, heaven would be a hell because they would not be able to sin in heaven and stay there. So here's our 5 objections. I've got more. If you want to hear more of my objections that atheists bring up against Christians and how we would answer these objections about heaven, let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. God bless you and keep you until we study again.